Hello, and welcome to my channel. I am Damien Marie AtHope. In the simplest terms, I am an atheist-humanist philosopher and prehistorical writer-researcher at DamienMarieAtHope.com. I am specifically an axiological atheist. An axiological atheism can be thought to involve ethical and value theory reasoned and moral argument driven apatheism, agnosticism, atheism, antitheism, antireligionism, secularism, and humanism. Axiological atheists can be understood as a value theory or a value science atheist. As an axiological atheism's ethically reasoned and constructive pro-humanity. I am an axiological thinker, value theorist. The science of goodness, worthiness, usefulness, valuableness, virtue, reliableness, accuracy, validity, morality, integrity, beneficialness, etc., etc. We axiologists have a value consciousness. And in general, we see the architecture of humanistic humanitarianism value in people that we see as dignity beings. Places and things are not. Axiology is a value theory. In its broadest sense, it involves areas of philosophy that are deemed to encompass some evaluative or evaluation aspect. Therefore, it crosses almost all domains in some way or another. Now for a more detailed terms as to what I am. I am an axiological atheist, an anti-theist, an anti-religionist, secularist, humanist, rationalist, writer, artist, poet, philosopher, advocate, activist with schooling in psychology, sociology, as well as I am an autodidact, self-taught in science, archaeology, anthropology, and philosophy. I promote science and am against pseudoscience, pseudo-history, pseudo-morality, things that are found in religion. I support realism, axiology, of course, liberty, justice, ethics. I am also an anarchist socialist. I support anarchism and socialism, progressivism, liberalism, philosophy, psychology, archaeology, and anthropology, advocating for sexual, gender, child, secular, LGBTQIA+, race, class rights, and equality. So if you can guess from all that, I support or challenge that I have an eclectic variety of videos on a variety of topics. Please take time to check them out, as well as if you enjoy them, please give them a like. And don't forget to subscribe, as new things are on their way all the time for my channel.
I don't think. How about this? Let me say it better. I personally don't understand how anybody could see all of it and go, "Oh, okay, yeah, still magic is true." What? No. When you see all of it, you realize, wow, oh my God, we've been doing the same shit forever.
Yeah, it becomes just another section in the repeating history, I guess, in a sense.
Well, because I try to tell people, and that's what I'm saying, when you get this Damien perspective of history, which is from the beginning of anything, which we're going to talk about, all the way down to culture, advance, where people think about, religions, everything came from. But no, that's not where it came from. It really came way back, and it's just been continually this kind of nonsense that just kept getting more and more involved and developed or adding more things to it.
Right.
So, yeah, they have people have this totally, because they think it's like somehow 4,000 years ago, people just said, "Oh, invented gods out of nowhere," or whatever, And,
right.
Oh, no. Yeah. But I also think it's wrong to think that the past had full religion. And also, I think another thing, too, is that people have this totally wrong opinion of prehistory there's no such thing as religion and culture. It's all culture.
Right.
It's all culture. That's why. That's what I try to tell people. Religion is a cultural product.
Yeah.
Culture produced religion.
Yeah.
Not somehow they're different. Yeah.
Yeah. You can't. I mean, at some point, it becomes like a self-perpetuation, right? Like religion feeds into the culture that created it, and
Oh
back
yeah.
and forth, you know.
Oh yes. My point is, there's other things like fear and stuff, but base things, or also just love for loved ones. I mean, it is tragic. Like if you died right now, or I died, it would bother you. It would bother me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because we've had interaction, so it would matter. So I get the desire, but a lot of that is because of our, in a sense, finiteness. I
Right.
see it as. And that's why, to me, I focus so much on showing burials as a good way of seeing this emerging, because to me, it's so based to not just them, but to even today, how people are still in religion a lot of times.
Right.
Heaven or hell, which is really not now, but to afterlife stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It's. I'm trying. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I wasn't saying.
I was just gonna say, like, I try to be, I try to understand it, because I know lots of people who believe in this and stuff, and so I try to really like wrap my head around it, but I just can't. Like I literally just cannot believe in it. So
I can't now at all.
Right.
But anyway, so go ahead and real quick and tell us who you are, right? And then so people will know. And then go ahead and start reading, because I want people to know we're going to basically, Cory's going to do a lot of reading.
Right.
Because the reason though is because I can't accurately remember all this data, and
right.
I really want it to be more accurate than just me kind of
off the cuff, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, so I guess this is the atheist, humanist, anarchist revolutionaries, or leftist revolutionaries.
Yes.
And we're talking prehistory and how it relates to current political ideologies. And so today we're going to talk about pre-animism and animism, and how it relates to anarchism and socialism.
Right
so
on.
I'm Cory from the Mind of a Skeptical Leftist podcast and YouTube show. And
right on.
Yeah. So we've got pre-Marxist communism, sometimes termed primitive, though in recent anthropological and social studies, this term has begun to fall out of use due to racial stereotypes surrounding the ideas of what primitive is. Such a move has been supported by indigenous peoples who have faced racial stereotyping and violence due to being viewed as primitive. Due to this term, primitive communism may be replaced by terms such as pre-Marxist communism.
Oh, there you go. See,
So-
now so everyone can listen. Stop calling it primitive communism or something like somehow it's less than, because you're really just saying it's before Marx,
Right.
or some sort of a more detailed doctrine about stuff. So
yeah, there's the term primitive has a huge kind of like connotation, right? So
well, it can. It really depends on how you're using it. If you just mean like it as an ancient, but if you mean it's like a pejorative against people, like you are primitive, Cory, you don't
right.
think well, that's obviously using it in a so yeah. It definitely context, but unless you're explaining the context, I would say don't use it, and definitely don't say primitive communism, because it's wrong. Because like we did our first show, you explained some people that people still consider primitive, and it sounds like they have revolutionary, great ideas.
Right.
So calling it primitive.
Primitive and progressive seem pretty close to.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So what I was saying is that I really like that, really, for people to grasp it. That point for me. That's the one I support. I support Marxist socialism ideas, but we need to understand everything before that is not something primitive. It's just before Marx, or before an anarchist theorist or something, or before Damien came and explained something else. You know what I'm saying? That does. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so next up we got while Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels defined communism as a political movement, there were already similar ideas in the past which one could call communist experiments. Marx himself saw primitive communism as the original hunter-gatherer state of humankind. Marx theorized that only after humanity was capable of producing surplus did private property develop. Karl Marx and other early
Well, the only
communists...
thing to that is that that's kind of sort of true. Like, I would say it in this way: if there was never agriculture, there never would have been hierarchy, or the chance of hierarchy would have been extremely low. Put it that way. How's that?
Yeah.
Or how about this? At least much lower for someone
Right.
who wants to be like particular. Oh God, it just certainly would be lower. The chance, because if you remove that, because that behavior, what it means really is that you can build surplus. A grain, you can store it dry in a sense, and then you can feed a lot of people, But so like in different times or whatever, in drought or something, so it has like this power to it in a sense.
Right.
And also, if you get other, which happened for hierarchy, if you get other like slaves to do the crops,
right,
or like they would pay them, low wages, like now capitalism sort of.
yeah,
They pay, in a sense, almost nothing, or just like bread and beer or something, to eat. And so they would do their, and it was actually the 4,000 something, I think, is like the first strike where they.
Oh, is that right?
For a week or 2 weeks, they didn't get their beer and bread, so they were pissed. Or they didn't get their beer. I think they got their bread. Maybe they're not their beer. That's it. They're gonna quit.
Right.
But anyway, but my point is, so they were for laborers, and that's what was building the pyramids. But laborers, in a sense, just like now, were being just shitted on.
Right.
So that's. I'm just making a comment. I totally agree that agriculture and people being shit on is massively connected.
Yeah, that's interesting because I kind of covered this in a recent read reviews with Justin, where we talked about the book The Origins of Capitalism, and they talk about how like this advent of private property is kind of the origins of where this capitalist idea comes from.
I think private property didn't start until really in Germany, southern Germany. I think private property, in a sense, and like land, because there's like transfer of land,
right,
heritage. They bury like only the males or something from like several generations, and then that land is like dominated by this clan. So
it's a little bit more recent in a sense.
But yeah, so I think I think this is the thing, is that now we see all of it together, and we think, oh, well, it almost all came together, and that's I think the wrong. It's more like an evolution, like as along the way. I get the Roman army at the end was not the same in a sense with the weapons, the shields, everything. The way of doing things exactly is when it started.
Right.
Its first campaign and its last in a sense. Same with even the Greeks. There's all kinds of different helmets in a sense. Of course, also different kind of city-states sort of, but still, the point is I'm trying to say is everyone thinks of it as like unified. Well, also stupid thinkers, and we like to have cliff notes and not really understand or not really told the truth anyway. So yeah, but I'm just saying. So yeah, so all of it's kind of correct. It's just it kind of filters like bing, 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 bing.
Right.
And it's doing this too to me, going across the step, boom, back and forth. Europe, China, the Middle East, it's Siberia, but it's like just bing, 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 and just like that area was like hopping. But anyways, so go.
Okay. Karl Marx and other early communist theorists believed that hunter-gatherer societies were found in the Paleolithic through to horticultural societies as found in the, I don't know how to say the Chalcolithic,
which is actually Copper Age.
Okay. Were essentially egalitarian and therefore termed their ideology to be primitive communism. Since Marx, sociologists and archaeologists have developed the idea of and research on primitive communism. So then, primitive communism is a way of describing the gift economies of hunter-gatherers throughout history, where resources and property hunted and gathered were shared with all members of a group in accordance with individual needs. In political sociology and anthropology, it is also a concept often credited to Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels for originating, who wrote that hunter-gatherer societies were traditionally based on egalitarian social relationships and common ownership.
And I would say that also is kind of true. I would say that's even more true than some of the other statements.
Right.
That one is like dead on almost.
Yeah, like the idea that like a lot of, I think we talked about this before, like early tribes and various groups in various regions, they did what they did to provide for their community, their group, their,
Oh yeah.
you know.
Well, and like I said, you look at those animist cultures, they're still doing that. And
Yeah,
I
it
think
wasn't.
and by the way, but one of those cultures that hasn't changed in 15,000 years, it looks like, from the art. So they have the same tools, like they're still the bow and arrow and stuff. It has not
Right.
changed. It looks, so the artifacts, I mean, so their culture, you would assume, is somewhat probably,
Very, very similar.
Very similar in a sense. Like I said, look at how if you just looked at one animist culture too, you would not grasp that they're so the same. But when you hear several of them, you're like, wow, they also sound like kind of the same.
Right.
Is this like a thing? Is this like some sort of communist, socialist? Well, they would go, what is that? I don't even know what that is.
Right. Yeah, that's it. It predates those ideas.
Right.
So, yeah.
But in a sense, like, we would just still say they are doing that, though.
Yeah.
Whether or not they call, sometimes somebody doesn't say they don't have a religion, but you and me, as would go, oh well, no, actually you do.
That looks like religion.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard not to, I guess it's hard not to look at it and say, hey, that looks like communism or that looks like anarchism.
Well, right, because those, at least it's correct to say those are animistic socialist behaviors. They absolutely are. I mean, unless you redefine those words, I mean, so
right.
Anyway, keep going. But so
sure.
I agree with that statement. I'm totally on board with.
Okay, so a primary inspiration for both Marx and Engels were Morgan's descriptions of communism in living as practiced by the, and again, I'm probably not going to say this properly, the Haudenosaunee of North America.
I can't. Believe me, when I try to read archaeology words, I sound like I've never even read an archaeology book or something because I don't know how to explain them, or I read them totally wrong. Like, what the heck? What?
I'm gonna thank any indigenous podcasts and YouTubers that I follow if I say things correctly.
Yeah, we try. The point is, we're trying, and there certainly is the blogs that have all. I'm putting all this in a blog that are all going to connect to the original blog. So it'll be multiple blogs and videos that all connect to the original too.
Perfect for easy reference.
So, yeah,
that's awesome. So where were we? Okay, so communism in living as practiced by the Haudenosaunee of North America. In Marx's model of socioeconomic structures, societies with primitive communism had no hierarchical class social class structures or capital accumulation. The original idea of primitive communism is rooted in ideas of the noble savage through the works of Rousseau, and the early anthropology of Morgan and Parker.
And noble savage crap is some racist fucking bullshit. So, or ethnocentrism is at least saying like, oh, we're so good. Look at those noble savages,
Right. They live so pure. Yeah. Yeah, like we're not saying that these cultures had no problems and there was every single issue was solved, right?
That's a great thing too to say. Yeah, I agree, because I although I do respect, even the animist cultures, then I'm not saying I agree with every damn thing they do. I'm just saying a lot of the shit they do is like, wow, I totally am on board with that shit.
Yeah. Without elevating them to noble savage status, we want to acknowledge the similarities between their ideas and our
honor
ideas.
that these people have been doing this, something that we kind of finally figured out. That's all.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. They've been doing it for a while, and we took.
Oh, look, we found America, and the Native Americans going, "Yo, that's nice."
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so that's all we've got on the first part. Is there anything we need to add? Just
I was just saying talk. So yeah.
Okay.
Just so you know that we weren't just going to just keep reading nonstop, unless.
Right. That's fair. Yeah.
So.
All right. So
I didn't say I was a script writer.
No, that's fair. Understanding religion as religion evolution as outlined by Damien Marie AtHope's Reasoned Speculations from the Evidence. So then you've got a list here of various things. We've got pre-animism in Africa and Eurasia at least 300,000 years ago. Animism in Africa 100,000 years ago. Totemism in Europe 50,000 years ago. Shamanism in Siberia 30,000 years ago. Paganism in Turkey 12,000 years ago. Progressed organized religion in Egypt 5,000 years ago. And then it says Egypt, the first dynasty, 5150 years ago.
Right. That's just to give people a reference of when, so people know, because a lot of the stuff you talk about, people are like, I don't know any of that. But what is all,
Right.
And then even if you said things that they kind of know, like the pyramids, if you said, how old are the pyramids? People go, I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's why I was giving a reference that they don't realize that the state, system or empire or whatever really started 5,100 years ago.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's an important thing to know, because that's when, and I think we're going to talk about it later, of course, but I think it's really important because that's when, since religion gets a military.
Right.
And then all of a sudden it becomes that you need to, or it's beneficial for you to believe this if you're part of the empire.
Yes.
So the us and not us, by way of religion, which then of course makes religion very, very appealing, even though it has nothing to do with truth.
It makes, like you say, it makes it good to be in the group, and you can gain power as long as you're in the group.
Totally. Yeah.
So then we've also got the current world religions after 4,000 years ago, and early atheistic doubting, which is at least 2,600 years ago. So we got in pre-animism, around 1 million years ago, Damien surmises that pre-animism, animistic superstitionism, began around 400,000 years ago and shows a sociocultural evolution, and then led to the animistic somethingism or animist supernaturalism, which is at least 300,000 years ago, and about 100,000 years ago, it evolves to a representation of general animism, which is present in today's religions.
Right. Do you have any questions at all that, or?
I think. Okay, so I'm looking at it. I'm thinking around 1 million years ago, animistic superstition began.
Right. So what I mean by that is, like, animals have, I would call almost like a pseudo superstition, or like a very simplistic sort of, compared to what we have. Have you ever seen a monkey or even a dog or certain animals? You try to do a magic trick, they do not get it. Or or they're like looking like, where are you? I mean, it just, because you don't get. That means that the possibility that magic is possible is not in their first thinking. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Or that's how I perceive it. Let's put it that way.
Okay, that's fair.
I want to try to be more accurate, because I was like, maybe I haven't being a little bit too bold in that statement.
Right. I
don't actually know what they think, but it appears to me, and I'm a thinker. I like to look at things and then kind of break it down or re-engineer it. Like, okay, how would you get to that? Or what would that equal? What would that mean? And so I see the behavior, and what does this continued behavior mean? What kind of a thinking would it take for that behavior to be pleasant, to be appealing, to be, and then also realizing what does this thing value too? Because you can't look at like a human and a dog and then think, oh, I'm totally gonna know everything. It's the same. Right. So
yeah.
It does matter, the ontology, what you're talking about.
For sure. So then you've got, began, we're looking at 400,000 years ago, and it shows a sociocultural evolution. And then it led to the animistic somethingism, like a belief,
So what I mean by somethingism is when you look and you see something move and you start to think beyond that the world's just weird, sort of like animistic, like, oh man, there's spooky sort of a feeling. You move from the spooky feeling to me, which is kind of superstitious, where maybe if I do this, that's our superstition. If I do this, this seems to happen, and I feel kind of, it's just something weird. You ever heard people talk like this? Like,
oh yeah,
no man, you just got to feel the essence of the auras. Or my point is, I'm just using. I'm not trying to make fun.
No, yeah, but
I don't care. But I'm just trying to, and all I'm trying to make the point is that it relates, I think, to how it first kind of starts. It's this. It goes from an animal. What I was trying to say is the animal that looks at the thing and thinks, "I don't get magic." What?
mm-hmm.
To wait a minute, something special could have happened.
Right.
Which they have seen in certain animals too, like birds are kind of superstitious. Like,
okay,
they did a study where these birds, I can't remember if they did something and they thought they got food, so they kept doing this, thinking they could get food, and that doesn't. But it's and I do think that so I'm saying the animistic superstitionism is a little bit more than in a sense I'm saying that animals have. You can see the reason I say this because a million years ago they go from kind of a crude tool to all of them are kind of this certain shape. Why? or one or two shapes, or even a group of shapes, but they're like copying each other, and then they're making almost exact copies, like somebody's teaching you. What? Anyway, so yeah, go ahead.
So then, the animistic supernaturalism, which is
okay. So supernaturalism is when you finally start looking and thinking, okay, there's a supernatural agency to it. There is not. It's not just any kind of magic. There's a mind, a entity of some sort of thinking or whatever.
Okay, so like you go from being something's cool and mysterious, and you're like curious about what caused it, to saying, I think it's this magical thing.
And then finally, it gets to I know. When it gets to animism, I know. I feel it.
Right.
I feel it in my heart. I know that ghosts are real. You get what I'm saying, or whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
What I'm trying to show too is I can see that, or it seems to me, because once again I'm saying speculations. By looking at the evidence, you look at the evidence, they get simple, but it kind of starts randomly getting more and more, done.
Right.
And at the same time, we've eaten food for a long time. We're evolving brain. You see the brain getting better. The idea is getting different. So it's not. That's why it's very human. Like human. Oh wow, we're doing more, but the brain is bigger. Oh look, the brain got bigger. We did more. And the brain got bigger. We invented language. And the brain got bigger. We invented, full on culture.
Right. Okay, so then at about 100,000 years ago, it evolves to a representation of general animism, which you said is you're saying this is what this is. I know that this is.
Yeah, this is when you get to belief. And also you start passing. What animism to me is when it really start passing the beliefs. The other thing I think was maybe that could have been passed in pre-animism. I'm not saying that there was definitely some kind of culture by 400, and so certainly by 300, some of the things are getting more similar, but everything is still kind of sporadic. It's not like when you get down to 100,000, everything after that almost becomes the same. Or at least some similar connection, way more culture.
Okay, so then, and that, like you say, which is present in today's religion, so that extends all the way to current age, right?
Yes.
Okay, so on to stuff I haven't read. There is also Homo naledi and an international cemetery, pre-animism, dating around 250,000 years ago.
Well, it's an intentional cemetery in a sense, meaning that it wasn't accidental.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's fair.
And the reason they say cemetery instead of burial, just so you understand, is because it looks like they brought bodies in and just left them there inside, deep inside. I can't remember now, but I don't know, whatever. But like say, far in the cave. This is I don't know how far.
Sure.
not at the entrance. In other words, like you couldn't even see it. Deep in, you had to climb and do it. So it was deep.
Okay.
And they did it twice, 2 different deep caves, and they put bodies almost at the end, or something, or somewhere, at least somewhere in there. I can't remember now. So once at the end, but some portion they would put it on 2 different things. That's for sure. And so that's what I mean by you have to understand the difference when it says that. So at 200,000 or 250, right?
Yeah.
So at 250, the behavior is definitely a beginning, sort of a, moving from the, the nothing to the deeper pre-animism, getting to animism. They're starting to do this behavior. And it also thinks that because the religion and culture to me are the same.
Right.
So culture also is developing, right? So, and all of that animistic thinking in general to me is the feeling that everything around you is alive, matters in a sense, and is sort of connected. When people talk kind of hippie-ish, that's very animist to me. I go, oh yeah, you're just animist. Well, I'm spiritual, not religious. I go, that's called animism. But okay.
Sure.
Sure. Okay.
Okay, and Neanderthals, primal religion, pre-animism, and animism. Mystery cave rings about 175,000 years ago. Neanderthals were the first humans to intentionally bury the dead around 130,000 years ago at sites such as Krapina in Croatia. I probably said that wrong. But
Well, it sounds good.
okay, so pre-animism ideas can be seen in rock art, such as that expressed in portable anthropomorphic art, which may be related.
Just hold on a second. For
sure.
people who don't know, anthropomorphic, in case you don't know, people,
Yeah.
in a sense, that means human characteristic. What I say as an axiologist is my morality is anthropocentric.
Right.
Meaning human-centered.
Yeah. Yeah, I always remember it because I made a mistake typing out once when I was discussing anthropogenic climate change.
Oh yeah.
And I put anthropomorphic, and then after that I couldn't stop imagining like glaciers melting with eyes on them and going, I'm melting.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people probably could look at glaciers melting and maybe see things because that's kind of this connected sort of a thing. But like I said, it already is that kind of a superstitious mind that is willing to entertain this. Because in a sense, if you had a very skeptical or very rational mind, and you're presented with something, your first thought is not, oh, magic must be true. In fact, everywhere's magic, because that would be another jump in illogic, because you see one magic doesn't prove all magic. Right. So I try to tell this guy, he goes, well, if I could show you a miracle, wouldn't that prove God? I go, see. Okay.
Not necessarily.
I'm not a skeptic. I'm a rationalist, meaning that every idea that I accept has to be built upon a valid and reliable, in a sense, soundness of reason and evidence. And if it lacks those, belief, in my opinion, cannot happen.
Yeah.
Just, it's a non-starter. What? You don't have evidence? What? Come back when you have evidence.
Right, exactly. So a miracle would have to be shown to be a miracle.
And then it would be limited to, I saw this thing happen.
Exactly.
That doesn't mean
you can't draw any other conclusions.
God did it. Oh,
right.
I've now seen you produce a miracle. Okay, I now see. But that once again, that would not mean all people could produce miracles.
Right.
That would not produce all miracles. That would, they don't.
This one instance is
every single claim, which is everything they make.
Yeah.
In a sense, in their statements, all require their own burden of proof.
Yeah.
Each little nugget and a whole bunch of presuppositions, all the little nuggets that you didn't think about.
Yeah. Okay, where am I? Anthropomorphic art, which may be related to some kind of ancestor veneration.
That's what I really think. I think, because someone asked me, are those like goddess figures? No, I don't think that's anything to do with that. I mean, that's, of course, this is my personal, like I said, speculations. But from just seeing how they behave with it as they carry it around, it definitely is something. And they carry it long distances. So and some of them, they're anthropomorphic rocks or whatever. They don't do anything. They don't chip them or stuff. They just pick up these, look like, like you were saying, a glacier has a face. They pick up rocks that look like human faces, and then they keep them, or little things, and they keep them.
Yeah.
And they take them, and then they find them buried with them, or near them, or in their area if they lived, or whatever. So the point is that they're special in a sense to these people. So I'm not saying that, but there are a few that they either kind of modified, or maybe semi-modified, or whatever you want to call it, or partially. So,
Okay.
so well, in other words, what I mean to understand is that there's like the oldest figure, I think is 400 and something, or 1,000 years old, or whatever, 350. I don't know.
Okay.
It could be somewhere on there. Because in the archaeology book, that's what they said. They think it's about 350,000 years ago in Israel. This little tiny figure, it's like little tiny cobble thing, but it does look kind of like like maybe breasts or maybe something like it's female like or something. I don't know.
Okay.
But
Interesting.
I don't think it's anything to do really to me with goddesses. I don't think anything.
It just looked like people, so they kept it in a sense, right?
That right. Yeah, exactly. Because they already connect. But the problem is, see, when you look at this one figure, you don't realize all these other ones they've been collecting that Damien knows about.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is a little bit different. I agree, and it's younger and it's getting more advanced, certainly. But they've been doing this.
Right.
It's not.
It's
totally...
it's like if in future generations people saw a sculpture of a woman that was made now, and they were like, "Oh, is this a goddess?" Well,
Exactly.
It doesn't have to be.
I'm not saying eventually at some way later point,
Right?
Figurines could be connected to goddesses.
Well, and I mean,
but not. I do not. Me personally, I don't buy it for here at all. 400,000 pre-animism. Oh fuck no. But but I do think that it shows that they're starting to move from this superstitious to more. They want it to be from a face to more human.
Right. Okay.
That's what I see, to me personally. Because there's one in Morocco at 500, which looks kind of like a lumpy human form, not male or female, but still human or more human form. And then Israel, woman's looking form. I think that you have to understand that this is. You can see the evolution, to me at least. It seems like it's a similar thing, but I don't think it's fully like afterlife beliefs to me. Maybe it was. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't really think so. I think that it's like the starting of that, because you start caring about the group, right? You start because in a sense, collecting these faces, I don't think it's of them. That's why, like, I drew a picture that has a whole bunch of them and a thing in the sky. I don't think that's an actual spirit. I think it's like a remembrance, like a grave stone that we make kind of now. My buddy or lover or I don't know, child or who I'm not claiming I know what it is.
Right.
I'm just saying I think that it could be attached to a form of loss, and then attachment to a thing, because I don't think it's just art. In other words, like not like they're like all of a sudden are becoming artists, which I think that also could have been a factor, but I don't think that's why they're collecting all these, and multiple of them are doing it in multiple areas over a long period of time. That's what I was trying to say about speculation. There's a difference between reasoned speculations and unreasonable ones, and so
right. And it's important. Like you keep mentioning, like this is still a speculation, even though I'm basing it on this evidence that I see.
And I'm even giving you good reasons why this speculation is reasonable speculation, not just wild. Oh, I think it was aliens, So I'm giving you, and I'm even trying to be careful in how I say it, and really think more detailed of what was happening in relation to evidence that I have.
Right.
Which is, to me, I think science does, or certainly maybe they do it, I'm sure, better than I do it, but in the sense science. But I mean, I am trying to do it, in that kind of a credible way, because I think that that's how you should build credible arguments.
Yeah. Being careful with your thinking is how.
That's how you get better thinking.
Yeah, that's right. Where are we? Okay, so this magical thinking may stem from a social or non-religious function of ancestor veneration, which cultivates kinship values such as filial piety, family loyalty, and continuity of the family lineage. Ancestor veneration occurs in societies with every degree of social, political, and technological complexity, and it remains an important component of various religious practices in modern times.
Pretty much all.
Yeah.
I would say all, but then someone would show me, oh, Damien, this one doesn't.
Right.
So I'll just say, it sure seems like all.
It sure seems like all, even if one aspect of one thing doesn't necessarily. Yeah.
Well, I think that's the other thing too, is that there's a big difference between someone who intentionally freaking is lying or misleading people and someone who just kind of says it in a little inaccuracy. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
There's a big difference. I don't think it's right to think of those as the same thing. Like,
Yeah, for sure. Okay. As Damien understands it, humans are not the only species which bury their dead. The practice has been observed in chimpanzees, elephants, and possibly dogs. Intentional burial, particularly with grave goods, signify a concern for the dead, and Neanderthals were the first human species to practice burial behavior and intentionally bury their dead, doing so in shallow graves along with stone tools and animal bones. Exemplary sites include Shanidar in Iraq, Kabara Cave in Israel, Krapina in Croatia. The earliest undisputed human burial dates back 100,000 years ago, with the remains stained with red ochre, which show ritual intentionality similar to the Neanderthals before them.
And just so you know, I don't know if I had put it there, but I know red ochre, the first use of it kind of mining was 300,000 years ago. Yeah, crazy.
Okay.
So, and I always think, what exactly do they need to do this? Why are they the first element ever, in a sense, mined in the world? It was red ochre,
Yeah.
Well, and there's some people go, well, it's culture. You're saying then, and culture started 300,000 years ago. If you're saying they're using it for some cultural expression, I don't have a problem with that, because, like I said, I do think something started pre-animism. I think something was culture was certainly ramping up 300,000 years ago. I don't think it, as soon as humans stepped in the scene, that we were doing Saturday Night Live. I think that
Right.
I think that it's been a long, lumpy process.
Yeah, for sure. So our next section is animism, such as that seen in Africa 100,000 years ago. Damien thinks it could be that we learned religion from Neanderthals. So asks us to also ponder the question, did Neanderthals teach us primal religion, such as pre-animism or animism, around 120,000 years ago? And what do you think?
Well, my feeling is that humans go from Africa into 100,000 years ago into Israel, the same area where there was Neanderthals. After that point, humans bury somebody.
Okay.
Never have done that before.
And now they start.
And then they also use red ochre, the same thing that the Neanderthals did.
Okay.
So, and then also, they now are starting to use mountain steering tools from the Neanderthals. Which, how did they start doing these very complex tools that they've already figured out? Now, some experimental archaeologists may say that I'm wrong, because I can't totally remember. Once again, that's why I like you reading it. But I want to say it's 3 days training to learn how to do mountain steering tools, but maybe it's longer.
Okay.
Anyways, my point is, it's not. They're complex enough that it could not accidentally just see you do it for 5 minutes and then have. It would take, I think it was like a 3-day course of 8 hours or whatever hours. I can't remember now exactly, but I'm going to claim that. But certain amount of hours, and more like days, or long. It was not something you could learn quickly. So it wasn't like you could show up at their camp and someone was finishing a tool and you go, aha, I'm now going to copy that.
Right. It actually involved like yeah. That's what I was just saying.
Massive interaction, and we already know that there was a sexual interaction, because there's at 100,000 there's DNA that we know in Siberia of 100,000 with a Neanderthal male and a human female from Africa. So we know that I know this stuff was inherent, and there's other interactions. So these people, I mean, that's why, once again, I don't know for 100% sure, but when you go to the same area as other people, and then you start, like them, burying people, which you didn't, and you also use red ochre on the bodies, which you are copying what they do, and then you put stone tools that are similar to theirs in the graves,
Right.
like they do, and the same kind of tools as they do, but a little bit more different because you're humans. But still, the 100%, it's your version of them. That's all
Right.
it is. It's a stone tool that's in other words, it doesn't look like a Neanderthal made it, because the Neanderthal would have made it a little bit different. Because I think also that one of them is, I think, a little bit smaller in our hands. I think because actually physically our bodies are a little different.
Right.
So I think I think I read something that might have been a factor.
So the human version of something might have been adapted slightly different hand shape.
I think
size.
it was something like, because I remember reading something like that. Because I like to read, like, people understand, even though about religion, I want to know everything, because everything, like when people think of religion, they only think like I believe blah blah blah. So what? Or I believe in a God. Oh, that's not your religion. That is like one piece of
Right.
1,000 pieces that are your religion.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, where am I? Homo sapiens is known to have reached the Levant between 120,000 and 90,000 years ago, but that exit from Africa evidently went extinct. Okay, 100,000
Well,
years
actually,
ago?
they think that it went there and maybe went back into extinct, in the fact that it did not. 100% sure they did not stay in Israel,
Oh, okay,
and there's no evidence that they went from there to somewhere else. Although, like I said, some DNA ends up in Siberia, but it doesn't go on for humans. Whoever the human was died somewhere else,
okay.
or has not been found, or whatever. So you get my point. So that's what they mean really by, and also it's not a major human lineage. It went like back into Africa and then became spread into whatever.
Okay,
But
became
so
part of the others.
right. So but there's at 98. Can't remember exactly. There's another burial like in can't remember which African country, so I won't say it, but somewhere on the eastern side, going down towards South Africa, which is where I think it lands. There's one in the middle, in a sense, and
Okay,
it already has bones with like scratch marks, which a lot of people saw is only after 50,000 or 40,000, and so beyond the, I mean, the ones in South Africa are super advanced, but almost like art. There's definitely, you can see this stuff happening. And because, like I said, it happens here, and you see it here, and you see it here, and then everybody comes from down here,
right.
goes here. So,
Okay, so that was about 100,000 years ago in Kafza, Israel.
right.
The oldest intentional burial had 15 African individuals covered in red ochre and was from a group who visited and returned back to Africa.
Yep.
100,000 to 74,000 years ago. At Border Cave in Africa, an intentional burial of an infant with red ochre and a shell ornament, which may have possible connections to Africans buried in Kafza. Animism is approximately 100,000-year-old belief system and belief in spirit-filled life and or afterlife. If you believe like this, regardless of your faith, you are a hidden animist.
Yep.
The following is evidence of animism. 100,000 years ago in Kafza, Israel, the oldest intentional burial had 15 African individuals covered in red ochre, who was from a group that visited and returned to Africa. And then, I think I just read the same same paragraph.
Okay.
It seems to Damien that it may be the Neanderthals who have transmitted a primal religion, or at least burial and thoughts of an afterlife. The Neanderthals seem to express what could be perceived as a primal type of religion, which could have come first and is supported in how 250,000 years ago the Neanderthals used red ochre, and 230,000 years ago shows evidence of Neanderthal burial with grave goods and possibly a belief in the afterlife. So
right, yeah. So it didn't. In other words, we didn't invent it.
Right.
I don't think we did.
There seems to be evidence saying that this is where it came from and this is where we got it.
It certainly, if anyone that sees it goes, okay, there certainly is reason to have that speculation.
Right. Okay. Do you think it's crazy that Neanderthals may have transmitted a primal religion? Damien asks us to consider this. It appears that 175,000 years ago, the Neanderthals built mysterious underground circles with broken off stalactites. To Damien, it is this and other evidence that inspired new thinking. This evidence suggests that the Neanderthals were the first humans to intentionally bury the dead, doing so in shallow graves along with stone tools and animal bones. Exemplary sites include Shanidar in Iraq, Kabra Cave in Israel, and Krapina in Croatia. Also, to Damien, other evidence may suggest the Neanderthals had it transmitted to them by Homo heidelbergensis 350,000 years ago, by their earliest burial in a shaft pit grave in a cave that had a pink stone axe on the top of 27 Homo heidelbergensis individuals and 250,000 years ago, Homo naledi had an intentional cemetery in a South African grave. So I guess, in a sense, like, are we kind of connecting these together by saying, like, as you said before, like it goes from place to place to place to place?
Well, I don't think the one in the Homo naledi, I think that is by itself. I don't.
Okay.
I think that that's just evidence of how, in general, a lot of these hominids were starting to change and begin to what I would think is pre-animism. That they're all sort of evolving. They're all doing this similar behaviors. So it's important, but that one I don't think. The other one, the first one, like I said, the 430,000, whatever it is, in Spain, I think it is or you said 350. I thought it was
yes, 350. Heidelbergensis, 350,000 years ago in a burial shaft pit grave.
Well, there's another thing that I thought the one that was 430. But anyways, whatever the date is, the point is that, as your question is, that one to me is the loose that I'm not sure. So I would say from the evidence, I don't know. I just said it could be because the reason I say is this general area of Europe where everybody was at, where I know there's several cultures kind of were. So, and then they all are kind of doing a similar thing. And I know that the steppe, I already told you, is like the superhighway. So I know that it was an easy thing for these ideas, or easier, I would say, not easy, but certainly easier than going over mountains.
Right. Yeah.
Way easier.
Yeah, I guess there was a 230,000 years ago showed evidence of Neanderthal burial with grave goods and possibly a belief in the afterlife.
But I think that that one, some of the Neanderthal graves, especially the older ones, the grave is probably almost even the wrong word. Almost like if you were put on the ground and a bunch of rocks put on top, he was almost more accurate on some of them.
Right. It's not a burial per se, but it is a kind of a grave, right?
So especially a lot of the first stuff, and also Neanderthals, you understand too, to me, were all over the place. They weren't like standardized like in how they buried. But I think some of that also, Neanderthals, unlike humans, were more certainly more masculine in form because we're considered feminized compared to Neanderthals. And because of that, also there's social things that go with that feminizing, like the fact that we are more into culture. We're also more into bigger groups. We also do well socially. They don't seem to have had any of that. So,
okay. Very interesting.
So what I mean is because you get an idea, but then when you isolate out and don't interact as much, they interact a little bit, but more than you'd think, but still, but very, very, a lot less, let's say.
Okay.
They had a little bit of social interaction, but it was definitely a lot lower.
Well, that looks like that's all we've got for this show, or
Right
this
on.
episode. Our next one looks like we're going to cover totemism, 50,000 years old, related to anarchism and socialism.
Right, and I think that one's going to be, in a sense, a little bit more approachable probably for people, because it's talking a lot more about stuff that people feel like they understand a little bit about or heard about.
Yeah, it's tough to, I guess, really wrap a person's head around a lot of this stuff about prehistory. It's hard to know, like, most people have not learned about stuff
speaking of,
that's
how about you?
400 years ago.
Certainly,
1,000 years ago.
I've done the research, so people know. I've done the research starting in 2006. I'm an autodidact. No, I didn't go to college for this. I went to college to get in a sense, psychology degree. But I lost my religion in the class on the Bible because they showed me archaeology.
Right.
And I accepted that this was real facts, and then it contradicted what I believe, and so I stopped believing. But that also made me desire to go, well, how did this start?
Right.
And then I went, surely someone should already know, right? There should be like one book that explains all this. And then I looked and I went, no. And then I even bought a book on archaeology. It's like $175 book. Humongous, like 1,200 pages or something.
Right.
And I read it, and they break everything up and so careful to not destroy religion.
Oh, is that right?
So to the point that, to me, it almost doesn't make the book very effective, because it's hard, unless you understand how they try to break everything abstractly. Water beliefs, or, you know what I'm saying? So instead of explaining like how water beliefs relates, or when water beliefs may have happened, right? Or when we can certainly say for sure there was these kind of beliefs. It could have been deeper, but I mean, I think that certainly we can. When they started doing agriculture, started caring about water. What the fuck did you care about water before? I mean, you fucking don't like the area because you do. You just walk away.
Yeah,
agriculture, where you should grow and shit, you just can't walk away.
Yeah, exactly. You just, before you're growing shit, you just move on to the area where there's stuff to drink and eat, right?
Right. And so arguments would be generally over land that's just able to live on. But because there's so much land with so few people, it's not really that much conflict.
Right. That's interesting. It's I think a time of human evolution that most people really don't they haven't learned a lot about, and they don't examine really. It's way back then. And
well, and also we do it actually with bigoted opinions.
Right. Yeah.
Me too. I mean, when people know, I didn't start with this enlightenment. I started with dumbass. In fact, when I started doing this, I was a spiritual atheist, I thought. And I thought that I believed in an afterlife or possibility of it or whatever, but not God.
Right.
But the more I read, the less I believed in such nonsense.
Yeah.
Until finally, it was very easy to just go to this. Oh my God, this is, and that's why I want people to know it's not like I was at some death wish trying to debunk religion. I really was actually just curious, especially when I first stopped believing as an atheist. I did it in college on my own. I didn't know there was other atheists. I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything. I didn't even know I was an atheist. In fact, when someone asked me, I was like, I don't know if I'm an atheist. I said, I don't think anything is possible. So I don't know what that is,
Yeah, I had a lot of when I was, I don't know, I guess maybe early 20s, say. I was very much of the idea where, I don't call myself an atheist. I don't really believe in what other people believe in, but I definitely am not going to call myself an atheist. And in order to avoid frustrating my parents, I often did use the term agnostic, because I could soften it a little bit by saying, well,
Right.
I basically just don't believe it. I just don't know what to believe.
Right.
So,
Right. Well, and even for people that are agnostic, like I'm in a sense an anti-agnostic for myself.
right.
Not that I attack agnostic people. It's like I'm an anti-religion, but I have religious people that are friends. So I'm not like if you think that of me, you're really missing like how I think.
Yeah. It's the difference between attacking people and attacking beliefs, right?
Completely. And to me, a human has a dignity. A belief has no dignity to violate.
Yeah.
There's no. I told this one person, she got so mad. She was an atheist. She got so mad at me because I said beliefs have no right to exist. Only people do. Oh, she was so pissed. Oh, they have a right to their. Oh, no. Yes, they have a right to believe things without
Right.
being, in a sense, terrorizing them about it. Oh, sure.
Yeah.
But that belief itself has no rights.
And if somebody wants to have an honest conversation, then I can't say like, yes, I believe the same thing as you when I don't believe the same thing as them.
Well, and also, could you imagine, as you've already kind of getting the understanding after knowing me a little while, with all the stuff I know, do you think it's easy for me to talk to people when they're like, "Oh, if you only read Jesus," like, "Oh,
right? Oh yeah, no, I'm sure if I just read some more Jesus, it'll be fine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that'll do it. That'll remove all the understanding of prehistory that I now have.
Yeah, that's right.
And if you don't think I haven't, just keep watching the videos.
There we
Or
go.
reading the blogs, and you can go look up the information, check everything.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I always laugh at people like that come up with like ideas that are expansive or outside the box, and they go, "Oh, those people don't want to accept it. They're just haters." And I go, you never hear me say that. Never. If you can show me I'm wrong, I will change.
There you go. Yeah.
So, and I got, that's the other thing too. Didn't you not hear the first story? When I started the book, I thought different than when I ended the book because as I learned stuff, it's crazy. This is so crazy. I changed.
Yeah. Instead of just always claiming that the thing I'm reading is lying to me, I often try to absorb that information.
It's a crazy thought, especially when I know it's facts. And I'm willing to update. And so just like sometimes in archaeology, they'll say, "Oh, well, this thing now is dated differently." You know what? Then I accept the new date or whatever. I mean, this is the thing to me is so different than religion. Why to me religion and people I'm one of the many reasons I'm an anti-religionist is because I see it as a toxic substance. It itself is like does this without, and it's like self-generating. Once you turn it on, it's like it just starts running on its own almost in a sense in your mind because it becomes because once again it's culture, so it's your whole life.
Yeah,
it's like it's not something that they believe like somehow it's outside like, well, I think that Batman is a good character or something. Yeah, no, it's not something in a sense. It's so personal. It's there because people don't say like I believe as a Christian. No, they say I am a Christian.
Yeah. And even like, because I know people who say I am a Christian, but then their kind of day-to-day life, they don't really do much with it, right? But there's a significant segment of the population that they say I'm a Christian, and they not only go to church regularly, they also do things in the name of their Christianity. They do their day-to-day life. They carry their crosses with them. They read their Bibles all the time. They literally their entire life.
My mom, before she died, all the time for my entire life would answer the phone. Hello, Jesus loves you.
Oh, geez.
My friends would hang up. They thought they got a church. What the hell?
Is this the right number?
Damien, you gotta give me your right number, man. I got a church or something like.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I forgot to tell you, that's my mom. Oh, by the way, when you come, just grin and bear it because she's going to try to pray over you and all kind of nonsense. Which hopefully, I always stay outside, but hopefully if you come in, we can get out quick.
Yeah, for sure.
But because religion is so true, you have to force it.
Right.
That's like my ideas.
That's how true things work.
Yeah, my ideas are so good. I want you to research them because then you'll believe them.
Yeah, that's right.
I hope you go research everything because you'll just go, wow, Damien knows a lot of shit.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, it's like, I mean, my life, I spend a lot of time discussing politics and a little bit less discussing religion, right?
Yeah.
And I'm talking to Justin, where we have different political tendencies. So then
I like Justin.
Yeah, he's a good guy. And he'll challenge me he'll ask me a question. Well, how do you explain this through anarchism? And I like that. It doesn't offend me when he asks a hard question because I want to be able to justify my belief, right? Or my ideas.
Well, it also, if it is truly justifiable, what are you worried about?
Well, exactly. That's right.
That's why I said, if people go, do you defend socialism? I go, do I defend being kind? They're like, well, why would you do that? See? And now you understand why I feel no need, in a sense, to defend socialism. All I need to do is tell you why capitalism is bad. You understand immediately that we need this to be ended, and then you realize how that socialism does make some sense.
Yeah. What are the alternatives? Here's some other ideas.
I'd say, no matter what, to people that capitalism, no matter what, if you don't like socialism, please don't even try to tell me that capitalism is good.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Well, I do enjoy the comment like, oh, well, people are too greedy for socialism to work. And I always come back with, except, so then why are we in a system that rewards greediness? Like we could at least change the system so that greediness is not rewarded in the same way.
To me, like, as axiologists, it's all value.
Yeah.
So the value to me is a moral one, because I think this is the issue. Socialism is a moral system.
Right.
Capitalism is an immoral, in a sense, in a sense, system that's really only about, or is in a sense, denies humanity for capital.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Because they always tell me, well, Damien, there is no morality and capitalism. And I go, exactly. It's an immoral system. That's what I've been trying to tell you. Thank you for agreeing. You can't justify it.
Yeah, you just
it's just economic, right? Denying humanity while it's doing that so that it can gain the highest profit. I totally get it.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's how we have people, billionaires, flying up to space. Yeah, I totally get it. Yeah. How is that possible? One person can afford that.
That's right. Yeah. You and I don't disagree on the nature of what's going on here.
So that's why I feel the best thing to do is not for me personally, is telling people, or anarchism, that it's important, other than saying, shouldn't we value the rights of others? Isn't that what is consistent with what we call good people? Don't we generally consider good people to be ones that value the rights of others? I mean, if that's not, at least in their category, what do you mean by good?
Yeah, even though I fundamentally disagree with the anti-mask, anti-vax people that are out there right now, they are still using that same kind of argument, right? Like, they're saying that this is a violation of their rights and that their rights need to be respected. They're wrong.
They're full of
it. They're wrong, but that's their argument. Like, they know that that's a good argument, is what I guess I'm saying.
Right. And so, as an axiologist and also understanding universal ethics, the simplest way to tell you is this: everything should be universal. You should be able to flip it. And if you don't, the reason should be seriously justified, not just that's the way it is. No.
Yeah.
It has to be, otherwise, it's not morality. You're just pseudo-morality. You're just making it up. It's not.
That's right.
If it's moral, like you say, that men have rights. Well, you certainly can't say that also other people that are not men have to also have rights. What?
Yeah, that's right.
But so to me, that when the moment when they say we can do business and not consider morality in a social setting is an immoral thing. To me,
right.
Done. I mean, you can't defend it morally because is this not? This is what I think is crazy too. Do you not believe in business ethics? So you're saying that capitalism is somehow not even involved in business ethics,
right?
Or is it?
There's no ethics in business.
Right, and so you get my point though, is that they want to act as if they're good people supporting this humongous, very evil system.
Yeah,
and I'm like, well, I don't know. You tell me. Is that what good people do?
Yeah,
and certainly this is the thing. I'm not saying all of them are enlightened and grasp the evilness of capitalism.
Oh no, yeah.
So I don't think that we should be. First of all, I told you before. I have won a lot more people over with kindness than I've ever done with hate.
Yeah.
And another thing too is that I could tell you they're ready for you to hate them. Oh, they're not ready for my type of kindness. So my type of kindness is I think that telling the truth is kindness. I think it is. And then of course how we do it. Like I told you, what I do with people, even when I challenge you, like I was trying to get you before when I said about calling names, or if you said primitive. And that made me angry because you're calling, well, yeah, it's primitive, communism, those pre-animism and animism, yeah, whatever, but they're just primitive. It doesn't matter. We don't need to care. Marx is really when we stopped being primitive and got enlightened or whatever.
Right.
Which to me, I would sound like a bunch of bigotry bullshit. And you calling yourself an anarchist and socialist, like what the fuck?
Yeah.
I mean, dude, don't you fight for the lack of oppression in general, including ones that you might be involved in?
Yeah. That's kind of the point, right?
Well, I'm just saying about consistency with what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you call yourself, something, and then you absolutely like this one guy, which also I don't really like when people like if I said you're not anarchist enough or you're not atheist enough for me or any of this bullcrap. I think all that to me once again about classes. I've already told you.
Right.
Oh my God! Just operate with people on a human level, right? Isn't that the good thing you should do? I mean, why is all the and it's like when people like, oh, they like comic books, like somehow that's bad. I don't like comic books at all. Do I care?
I love comic books.
What I'm saying, but I'm saying, but you get what I'm saying. Like somehow people act as if those are lesser, or I hate. You already know this. I can't stand any of that. To me that's just all toxic. Whether they're doing it or we're doing it, it's just toxic bullshit. And I'm not saying it doesn't feel good. Sometimes I want it myself. But then when I always go, but is that consistent with being a good person?
Right.
And now we can say, is that even consistent with primitive, communism? It doesn't look like it's even consistent with primitive communism. Primitive communism, if that's what to call it, right? Like the animism we read last time, that you have to minimize your self, value or whatever, not boast,
Right.
How many of us even that are leftists would have to tone ourselves down a little bit if we actually followed that? So I'm just saying, yet we're calling them primitive. They're looking at us going, you guys are arrogant assholes.
Yeah, you're all pretty backwards. You.
But so I think this reminds me that what I think of when I think of socialism and communism is not particularly Marx. Someone asked me to defend Marx, and I was like, I don't really do that. I don't want you to defend any philosopher or anybody. Your words should speak for yourself. And if your words are confusing, it's not my job to try to somehow read your mind. Now I can give you my speculation, but once again, it doesn't mean I know. So you're asking me what I know, and also when I don't understand a quote, then I want to read more quotes that could be related or around it or something.
Right. Yeah. The background around it.
Yeah, or who the person is. I want to understand more things. Because like if you took one of my memes, just one, and then I was joking about a god, you might have almost thought I could have believed or something. But if you know me in general, you know, oh, Damien's hell no.
Yeah. This is clearly a joke after all the context, right?
That's what I'm saying. So when people say, well, someone said one thing, I'm like, unless I understand them and the context, I feel careful to.
I think it's important because not venerate individuals.
Oh,
You know,
definitely not
you
that.
know, we don't want to put them on a pedestal and say they're perfect. Like Marx was flawed. He's a human being just like the rest of us, and some of the things he said weren't great. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, certainly,
You know,
when he said primitive communism, he was wrong. He shouldn't have called it.
right.
So,
And there's a variety. I think he may have also been wrong on like feminist issues. I've read somewhere that Engels was not a great feminist, as far as I've been told.
Well, say with Pardon, and I think Pardon was even against Jews, I think, or something.
Right. So, do you? If we're venerating people, that's a big problem, right? But if we're just taking the best things out of everything they say, then that's not a problem.
And that's the same thing I told you I want people to do with me. You need to follow me. Take the ideas you think are the best that I have accomplished, thinking about, and then
discard more. That's right. Yeah, keep reading, keep going, and finding out more information.
Yeah, go do. I feel like, especially with prehistory, I feel like I've really done a lot of work to lay everything out so everybody else can then go look deeper.
Yeah.
Because now like you have like a template, or at least a starting. So it's a lot easier when you understand. Even like if you like when I have a thing about where the pottery comes from and how it moves, matching the genetics, sort of. And so because you can do that and know the cultures in between, and then it's easier to make statements. But still, I want and hope somebody goes and actually proves everything, or if I'm wrong, disproves it. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I was saying back to it about that. But like this one guy I attacked on. I didn't attack her, but I posted a thing against aquatic ape theory. Okay,
that's fair.
Right?
Aquatic, it's nonsense.
well, right? But once again, see what you said? I did not, because it's not once again, we already heard. What's my field study is really prehistory of religion. That is, right. I'm a lot better than that. But start asking me wacky shit like the other scrap. I looked into it, saw other people I wrote shit that I thought I agreed with anyways, because I do know a lot of stuff. So I was like, I'm already going, even from what I know, I'm like, right. That doesn't, no. But so I was already very, in a sense, skeptical, which I'm not generally, but that was definitely something that I was, because I'm not against skepticism. If something is said and I feel that I know kind of, but I'm not sure, then I'm skeptical, because I kind of know it's not. I feel uncomfortable.
It's worth questioning, right?
But I wasn't claiming to be totally knowledgeable, and they have all these, because the thing about pseudosciences, you can like put a bunch of things together and make these bold claims.
Mm-hmm.
I could do the same thing. Now, if I called my shit theory, and I claimed more deeper knowledge than saying speculation from the evidence or reason to whatever, which I try to make sure I keep saying, so people grasp that I am not trying to overblow what this,
Right.
And also, I try, and especially in the book, I want to explain that I have simplified this down. It is even more complex. If you think this is hard, it's you got to remember the book's going to end up being like 200, 300 pages. Used to be 6,000.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. And that is not even all. That is still the simplified version. It's probably 100,000. I mean, I'm just telling you. But I still need to try to give you this ballpark understanding of this stuff, is my point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but even then, don't think that you totally understand. I've given you the Cliff Notes.
Yeah, for sure. The Cliff Notes of the Cliff Notes.
That's true. Correct. The Cliff Notes. No, the highlights. That's it. That's it. I'm giving only the highlights of the Cliff Notes. You do not actually know. It is way harder. But yes, I'm still right. But the fill in is a lot more.
Yeah, for sure.
Somebody was after learning all this. Just give me your. How do you feel, and what are your thoughts? Do you agree, disagree, or what? You can have your own opinion.
I don't have the background to say one way or another on most of this stuff, right? Like, if you tell me that these various cultures all used red ochre for their burials, I'm kind of taking your word for it. I don't have the background to dispute or disagree or any of that.
Right.
But I also don't see any reason why you would mislead me in in something like that.
Well, and once again, like I said, go look it up. I'm telling you, red ochre, man. We were not the first ones on burials to use it. It was way already being used.
Yeah, and I mean, we're both atheists. I basically agree with you on 99% of what you say about religion. So there's not much to dispute there. I didn't know this stuff about. I mean, I always suspected that there's various cultures that had, communist type ideas that they ran throughout their communities, and anarchist, egalitarian type stuff that we didn't recognize as European descendants.
Yeah. We invented everything.
Yeah.
Even though it was already there, and the people watching it being invented going, that's nice.
Right. Yeah. It's like it's really good to learn this stuff and kind of have a more broad view from humanity, instead of just saying, here, let's just follow the track from European politics.
Well, and to me, I would say something that surprised me. Someone said, what is the most surprising thing you learned? And I said that actually I can be an anti-religionist and still really feel connected to people because I learned religion. That's what I would say. After learning all this, I actually feel more connected to people because I just go, oh my God, we're so the same. Oh shit.
Yeah.
Even
well, and that's it.
Like, we have enough. Oh, we think we're so unique. Oh my gosh, we're so not unique.
Yeah. If anything, we're just another step in the entire line of what's going on.
So it made me a lot more, I would say, I feel more humbled than well, and I've heard this before. Say when you get a lot of knowledge, first a little knowledge you get arrogant, you get a lot of knowledge you get humble or whatever.
Right.
You realize, oh shit, there's a lot of shit. But also, I would say, beyond, there's just tons of stuff to learn. That's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that I really saw the humanity that I thought came, like you said, through Europeans, but not exactly. But, I thought it was, maybe 1,000 years ago or something, that started or something. And I didn't realize that, oh shit, no. Oh, I was way off. So, I mean, that really, because I think because in other words, before, when you have a picture of a caveman or something, right? Well, who are you talking about? Human caveman or
right?
Ancestors?
Yeah. What do you mean when you say caveman?
I start going, whoa, shit. But when we said before about when you think about anarchism and socialism, you said you think of different things, and religion, and I said I always think of indigenous people because I have learned so much having to study that compared to I've studied way more indigenous cultures than probably most atheists do. Because
I would think that's
they don't have an anthropology degree or some shit. Because, like someone said before to me, I have a lot of religious people that will follow me and read my ideas because I give a even-handed account of their religion. In fact, this one Buddhist said that she actually remembered her Buddhist teaching because she read what I wrote. She went, oh yeah, that's right. We do think that. I need to and I was like, well, I don't know if that's helping.
Well, I mean, I think, yeah, that is a thing that really happens, is that people start to go through their day-to-day lives and they're not examining every single thing of their belief system, right? So then some things are just done by rote and just by habit. And until you re-examine it or you see it in writing somewhere else, then it's like, holy shit. Yeah, that's the thing I do.
But I thought it was a compliment to the accuracy of me putting the stuff down that someone would actually say, hey, but I try to get, sources that are decent, or at least Wikipedia, something that isn't what I mean is by that is I try not to get atheist sources that could be perceived, doesn't mean there are, but perceived as biased somehow. I try to get what would be, hey, look, this is I'm not biased. They're not biased. They're just saying this, but this is my perception. Don't you get this perception? How do you not get this perception?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I really like a lot of, well, maybe less than I used to, but I still like a lot of atheist writers and content creators. But it's too easy for a religious person to say, "Oh yeah, but they have a bias. They're just rewriting history so that it to match their atheistic worldview, right?"
Right.
And then that's so. It's great to have other sources that are like, "Hey,
Right.
this
That's
is
like
not just an atheist saying bad things about religion."
right. Well, and a lot of, even like I had an archaeologist that told me before they were on there that they're actually not an atheist. They didn't say what they were, and I didn't ask because once, to me personally, I don't, unless
It doesn't matter really.
claims,
Yeah.
and you're saying that I have to accept this as true, then if you just say, well, like if you said, well, Damien, I believe in blah blah blah, or I may or may not make comment. If you
Right.
say this is true, I almost guarantee I'll make comment.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
So it's for me it's different as a thing because I'm in a sense not against you having your right to believe. That's I feel real anarchist. Like what am I gonna do? Force religion to stop? What the? I want to teach you knowledge and hopefully you get it on your own. I mean, the end of rationalism should be that what the hell? This is unrational.
That's why our project for the improvement of society is a long project because forcing people into things is not the way.
Correct. And that's why, though, I also feel it's really great what I'm doing where I appreciate your help breaking it down.
Yeah.
And letting them see that this stuff. But the reason I say this is because even for people that are capitalists, they think, oh, yeah, but this is the way it's always been.
Right.
And you need to show them, no.
Through, yeah. There's historical evidence to say that it is not always the way that it has been.
Or they go, socialism would never have worked. I'm like, dude, it's worked through most of human history, but okay.
Yeah, that's right.
It seems like the dominant model, but yeah, you keep the capitalism going.
Yeah, this exploitative system that has been around for a couple hundred years is not the norm for humanity.
Well, and another thing too is let's just say that there was some socialism that they can point to that they don't like. And I would just go, okay, but there's other socialism that are not like them in the world right now.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, first off. Second off, let's assume I don't like any of the ones in the world. Are you saying I'm limited to all these choices?
Right.
I can't make one that fixes those issues, but it's still socialism.
Exactly.
I mean, I feel like their system is shit. You need to throw the whole thing out. But because they can try to find one issue they don't like with something that how socialism is being applied.
Right.
It's generally not the core idea. It's generally how they don't like how it's applied. Yeah. Or how it's distributed or how much wealth is in the distribution or whatever the hell. But I'm saying generally it's not the system itself. They're not really against like the concepts generally.
If they read the philosophy without the title, a lot of people would agree with the things in that philosophy.
Exactly. Just like I say, if I told you animist cultures in Africa but did not read that was, if I said,
right,
well, the socialists of Albuquerque, they believe, and then you just read all that stuff, no one would go, those are not, real socialists. They would be like, wow, man, we got to check those guys out. Are they on Twitter?
Yeah, that's right.
So that goes back to what I was saying is, though, it really has made me more humble. And it's also made me more expansive. I always tell people that I want to be, a long time ago, I am more now, but I wanted to be culturally, sensitive or whatever, or, multicultural, as they say.
Right.
But I realized you have to be multiple cultural to be multicultural. To really grasp. In other words, you cannot stay in one, whatever it is, doesn't matter. Whatever it is, could be could be, in a sense, any kind of a culture or a political idea or anything else. If you only stay in just a purified everything of you, you get the
difference. Staying in your homogenous group or whatever, that breeds a kind of like in-group, out-group mentality, right?
Right. It limits your ability to look at others that are different and grasp the sameness.
Yeah.
You just cannot see anything but different. But when you've been in multiple cultures, you start to, like I was saying, before I did my book, I was actually kind of a dick towards religious people because I really didn't give a shit. Fuck them. They hurt me. Fuck them.
Which is, I mean, emotionally, that's a fair, that's a valid response, right? Like,
but not a very effective one if I want to help.
Right.
Yeah. It's really personal, yeah. But
yeah.
But I realized that I want to make a difference, and so that's a different issue. It's like a teacher. Do you want to be a teacher, or do you want to be a kid that's a bully in the backyard? Of the school.
Yeah.
Who are you going to be? And so I feel like a lot of people, which it does feel good, want to be the bullies in the backyard of school, especially I'm a strong person like me. My personality, that's like supernatural to want to do that.
Right.
Doesn't mean it's ethical. Doesn't mean it's right. Doesn't mean I should do that. And I always think, should I do it? Is it right to do it? Is it helpful to do it?
Right.
Can I do it is not the only thing I should be asking. Can I do shit? I can do a lot of things.
Yeah. It's like exploring the consequences of a variety of things, right? It's often a conservative talking point that personal responsibility, right? Like you have to plan and take the consequences of your actions. I mean, often that's hypocritical and not paid attention to.
If you're a white trader, totally cool. If you're a black person and you didn't use your blinker, you need to
right.
But
yeah, it's often very one-sided and misguided. But we do have to examine the effects of the things that we do if we want to have an impact on society. A friend of mine often accuses me of, with my show being a specifically left-wing show, will often bring up that I'm preaching to the choir or speaking only to people that already agree with me. And there is a danger in that. But depending on your approach, sometimes you can draw in other people that might be on the fence or might have other views. And as long as you're not constantly attacking individuals, I think it's the way to possibly change the odd mind.
So my opinion, that was their opinion.
Yeah.
My opinion is that we need people of honor. Okay. Yes, there's 1,000 people talking atheism, but how many of them are doing it with honor?
Right.
There's 1,000 people talking anarchism. How many of them do I, this Damien, feel is an honorable? I'm not saying that there's ones that are not great, but how many of them are the kind of person that I would say that person is like me?
Right.
Not that many. I mean, I'm pretty particular.
Right.
So, no offense. I'm just making a comment. Because I'm so big into my humanism. Mm-hmm. And if you had a problem with that, you wouldn't be here.
Right.
And I probably the same thing. If you had a problem with that, then you wouldn't be here.
No, exactly. Yeah.
So I'm just saying that you have a more openness that is important. And that's what I was trying to say too, is that about whatever you're teaching from that position, you're still the entire time. That's what I was trying to say before about that we're the product. But what I mean by that is that it's not just what we're saying. Every action, every time that I correct myself, every time that I correct you or let you correct me, or
right,
or we talk things out, or all of that is very good because all of that is teaching healthy interaction. Yeah. So I'm just saying, so you can have, so my point is, you can have two people, we're both leftists. This is definitely leftist show. We're definitely, I told you, every show is going to be related in some way, even though it could be other stuff, still going to be anarchism, socialism topics related to it, because I feel like they are, first off, related to it. So it's not like I'm adding
right
on the show, too. It's not like I'm adding them abstractly. Actually, Anthropology should talk about it because
it fits in.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of like if you care about accuracy, then you do need to add it. I mean, that's the point.
Yeah.
My issue was just you have to not call it primitive.
Right.
That's all.
Yeah.
Pre-marxism. That sounds fun.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Well, I think it's time to go.
It was great, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a good chat. I guess the plugs. The Mind of a Skeptical Leftist. I'm at Skeptical Lefty on Twitter. I've been a little bit more active on Twitter lately.
Because of me, right? But poking you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, because I wasn't on there, but after I got banned on Facebook, I went to war on LinkedIn. Then when I got banned there, now I'm on Twitter until I get banned.
Yeah. So have fun on Twitter.
Yeah, but isn't it crazy? I mean, do you think I'm such a crazy dude that should be banned?
I don't get that impression. Like, I don't see anything that should be banned.
I just go, seriously? Me? Okay.
Yeah. But I've gotten multiple, I haven't been banned off Facebook, but I've gotten multiple warnings or whatever from like just stating a factual thing.
Yeah.
Like, yes, so-and-so was accused of sexual harassment in this case. Oh, well, somebody reports that comment and now you're in Facebook jail for a week. So, yeah.
All right. Well, I look to see you next time, and we'll talk about totemism.
Sounds good. Oh, I hit the button.
Hello, and welcome to my channel. I am Damien Marie AtHope. In the simplest terms, I am an atheist-humanist philosopher and prehistorical writer-researcher at DamienMarieAtHope.com. I am specifically an axiological atheist. An axiological atheism can be thought to involve ethical and value theory reasoned and moral argument driven apatheism, agnosticism, atheism, antitheism, antireligionism, secularism, and humanism. Axiological atheists can be understood as a value theory or a value science atheist. As an axiological atheism's ethically reasoned and constructive pro-humanity. I am an axiological thinker, value theorist. The science of goodness, worthiness, usefulness, valuableness, virtue, reliableness, accuracy, validity, morality, integrity, beneficialness, etc., etc. We axiologists have a value consciousness. And in general, we see the architecture of humanistic humanitarianism value in people that we see as dignity beings. Places and things are not. Axiology is a value theory. In its broadest sense, it involves areas of philosophy that are deemed to encompass some evaluative or evaluation aspect. Therefore, it crosses almost all domains in some way or another. Now for a more detailed terms as to what I am. I am an axiological atheist, an anti-theist, an anti-religionist, secularist, humanist, rationalist, writer, artist, poet, philosopher, advocate, activist with schooling in psychology, sociology, as well as I am an autodidact, self-taught in science, archaeology, anthropology, and philosophy. I promote science and am against pseudoscience, pseudo-history, pseudo-morality, things that are found in religion. I support realism, axiology, of course, liberty, justice, ethics. I am also an anarchist socialist. I support anarchism and socialism, progressivism, liberalism, philosophy, psychology, archaeology, and anthropology, advocating for sexual, gender, child, secular, LGBTQIA+, race, class rights, and equality. So if you can guess from all that, I support or challenge that I have an eclectic variety of videos on a variety of topics. Please take time to check them out, as well as if you enjoy them, please give them a like. And don't forget to subscribe, as new things are on their way all the time for my channel.